Thank you, Dean Janda. Thank you so much, everyone. What a tremendous honor it is to be here today. To be selected for membership in Phi Beta Kappa is an extraordinary accomplishment. And on behalf of the entire UCI community, let me just say, we extend to you our most heartfelt congratulations. Phi Beta Kappa, we heard how what it refers to, the motto. One other translation is love of learning is the guide of life. I think your commitment to that article of faith, love of learning is the guide of life, may be the final requirement of your entry into Phi Beta Kappa. So perhaps it's a little useful if I share some thoughts on what it means for you to commit yourself to the idea that love of learning is the guide of life. What should be your frame of mind, your orientation to the world, if you were to embrace love of learning? Well, perhaps you can start by imagining what it would look like for someone to take a stand against the proposition. There are certain puzzles in mathematics and philosophy where if you're trying to prove it, you don't prove it directly. You first try to imagine whether you could prove the opposite. And so what would it look like for someone to reject the motto of Phi Beta Kappa? Well, I assume that such a person would begin with their biases and prejudices, or the views they uncritically have accepted as just the common wisdom of their day, or with the views supplied to them by mystics or political leaders, or they would just embrace the views that felt good to have and to hold, and then they would make sure that those views were never challenged. They would not care about encountering criticism or having to come to grips with inconvenient facts. Such a person would have to show disrespect to people who held other views because that's implied when you simply don't care if other people are saying that you're wrong. Such a person would care more about demonstrating solidarity with other like-minded individuals in the society or in their preferred subgroup than with what is real or defensible in a fair debate. And so conversely, what must therefore it look like if someone embraces love of learning? I encourage you to think through this on your own. Your answers may depend on your own sense of what is most important in that concept, but I can tell you that at a great university, the necessary conditions for a love of learning are clearly laid out. You need a dedication to careful and systematic observation as a foundation for making claims about what you think is true. An appreciation of logical reasoning, an understanding of the illuminating potential of hypothesis testing and other forms of rigorous experimentation. You need to demonstrate a willingness to learn from people who have a depth of historical or cultural expertise. You should have a commitment to offer fair-minded assessments of competing perspectives. And perhaps most importantly, a sense of obligation to reassess your own perspective in light of new evidence or better arguments. At a university, we think we can't learn or discover new things if we don't engage with others, debate important questions, and embrace these norms and practices. Interrelated with these norms and practices of systematic observation, careful thought, are a set of implicit assumptions about how members of such a learning community should treat each other if they're going to do the work of inquiry and discovery, including a genuine desire to learn from those who have different experiences or hold different views, and a commitment, most importantly, to resolving disagreements through reasoned conversation, debate, and further education, rather than through censorship or violence. These are some of the practices and attitudes I think you should embrace if you are dedicated to the notion that the love of learning is the guide of life. To maintain that commitment, I hope it's helpful to be reminded of how much humanity has benefited from these scholarly practices and assumptions. Every development in Western history, anyway, over the last 350 years that you might consider progress, a deeper understanding of the working of the natural world, or the rise of democratic governments, or new notions of human freedom and equality, or modern medicine, or innovative technologies, whatever from your vantage point looks like progress over the last few centuries, all of these developments have occurred because increasing numbers of people have embraced the norms and practices that I've just described. Conversely, much of what is still terrible about the world can be linked to the ongoing rejection of these simple yet powerful ideas. And relatedly, a rejection of the very idea that love of learning should be the guide of life is for people to prefer instead that others be trapped in ignorance, or they prefer to treat certain classes of people as undeserving of the basic human right that people have to educate themselves. And throughout most of human history, and still in too many places today, this has been the prevailing view. So this is one of the many reasons why I know you don't take for granted the culture of learning that you've experienced in your years here at UCI. It's easy to mistake the privilege of your education as natural or inevitable or the common sense of the world. I knew I was going to go to college, and so having gone to college, maybe it doesn't seem so special. But tragically, it is not the common sense of the world. And so I urge you the following. When you think of the phrase, love of learning is the guide of life, don't just think of it as the motto of a respected society. Treat it as your statement to the world. I will stand for this idea. Live your life as if you are an ambassador of this idea. Because on behalf of everyone who has ever lived and still lives today in enforced or chosen ignorance, on behalf of all of them, you must be a beacon of light, a beacon of enlightenment. Illuminate yourself so that you might illuminate the world. There is a reason, after all, why the great motto of the University of California is Fiat Lux, let there be light. You will find that when you choose to do this, not only will you be defending your status as a free and educated human being, you will also enrich your life and find deeper shades of meaning, passion, and purpose. Life rewards careful study, and a community of learners always has a bright future. I'll leave you with a final expression of this view from one of my favorite philosophers, John Dewey, who wrote, "Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself." Education is life itself. It really is. Congratulations once again on your tremendous accomplishment.